It is hard to put into words how much impact Lana Del Rey has had on the industry at large. Throughout 8, soon to be 9 albums, Lana Del Rey has paved the way for what we consider indie pop while carving out her own place in the canon of the greatest living American songwriters of any genre. This video is just one part of a series recapping Lana Del Rey's journey as an artist and a pioneer in a turbulent industry. In this chapter, we'll cover some of her earlier music as Lizzie Grant as well as her major label debut album, Born to Die, which not only put her on the map but caused shockwaves within pop overall during the mid-2010s. Before there was Lana Del Rey, there was Elizabeth Grant, a budding singer-songwriter who had worked as she'd later mythologized on White Dress as a waitress who learned how to play guitar from her uncle and performed at nightclubs in Brooklyn fresh out of high school. In her college years, Grant would continue to pursue music, recording EPs and music under the name May Jailer. Grant eventually broke through at the Williamsburg Live Songwriting Competition in 2006 and met Van Wilson, who worked in AR over at 5 Points Records, where she landed her first small record label deal. Even though later she would say nothing was happening during her time at 5 Points, Grant recorded an EP, Kill Kill, as well as an album, Fans Dub, aka technically Lana Del Rey, aka Lizzie Grant. Both projects were produced by David Kane, a producer who had worked with some of the greats like Paul McCartney and Stevie Nicks. I'll cover some of those earlier tracks in depth in another video if you guys want, but a key thing in this time period was her deciding on the stage name Lana Del Rey. Initially spelled with an A, the name was inspired by her time in Miami with friends from Cuba. Something exotic, beautiful, and glamorous. The name was inspired by actress Lana Turner and a Brazilian sedan from the 80s, the Ford Del Rey. Needless to say, the release of AKA was a mess for Lana. Between delays, the album allegedly being done in 2008 and only released on iTunes 2 years after, Lana eventually switched management and the album was pulled from sale just 3 months after its release. Only one song would ever be released despite her buying back the rights to the record by 2012. And now a quick history of the Born to Die era. In the same summer of party rock, Lana made her mark with video games in July of 2011. The music video's lo-fi webcam realness, combined with the song's haunting vocals and production, took the world by storm and landed her a new label, Stranger Records. It was named Best New Music on Pitchfork and made tons of year-end lists, and later secured her a distribution deal with Interscope and Polydor Records for her second album, Born to Die. Lana would retain the rights to her masters in this deal. Lana was on a fast track to success. It almost seemed overnight, going from a viral track in July to a major label drop in January. For context, Spotify launched in the US around the same time video games came out, and it was not the behemoth it is today. Naturally, speed bumps occur. Yeah, we need to address the infamous 2012 SNL performance, which drew backlash and criticism. Lana performed both Blue Jeans and video games. Looking back at the performances themselves, they weren't outright terrible, but there was a clear mismatch between Lana's brand of music and theatricality and that of SNL, a show built for general consumption. If we really think about other guests during the time period as well as what was charting at the time, it becomes stark that Lana didn't really get a fair shake. It'd be like inviting Beethoven to play for someone's prom. A mismatch. The show would go on to poke fun and kind of defend Lana in a Weekend Update sketch. 2 weeks after the performance, Lana properly released Born to Die, which debuted at number 2 in the States and number 1 in other countries. It received mixed reviews upon release, which would later turn into general acclaim as the years went by, and critics reappraised the record and its overall impact on the pop landscape. Regardless of initial response, the record sold over 3 million copies in its first year and is one of the longest charting pop albums of all time with an insane 469 weeks on the charts. That's a little over 9 years worth of charting on the Billboard 200. Few albums from the year 2012 or ever hold that level of longevity. At the end of the same year, Lana dropped a companion EP, Paradise, and a reissue of Born to Die, the Paradise Edition. She was nominated for Best Pop Vocal Album in 2013 for that record and won a Brit Award for Best Alternative Performer. The summer of 2013 was huge for Lana. She dropped Young and Beautiful, a track for Baz Luhrmann's Gatsby, which peaked at 22 and had a Grammy-winning remix of Summertime Sadness by Cedric Gervais hit number 6 on the US charts. She also dropped a companion short film, Tropico, for the Paradise EP. Shortly after finishing Paradise, Lana had begun sessions with producer Dan Arbach for her follow-up record, but that's another story for another time. With the history out of the way, I want to talk about this album's impact. One thing that dogged Lana at the time of the album's release was the debate over her authenticity as an artist, as well as accusations of her being an industry plant. Remember, this all happened before TikTok and modern streaming even happened. People used to buy singles and albums on iTunes, believe it or not. In retrospect, the scrutiny that Lana faced in 2012 was insane. Twitter was barely a factor. Most artist-to-fan communication came in the form of interviews, yet indie bloggers around the world created clickbait about Lana, pointing out her father's occupation and involvement in her first album, her previous attempts at starting a music career, and just doing invasive public background checks in the name of unmasking Lana Del Rey as a fraud. Media outlets themselves were digging for anything to challenge Lana's narrative. The witch hunt that she faced is not unlike accusations many budding, primarily female pop artists today face when they're called industry plants. Lana was an enigma to critics and the public. Her music was genre agnostic, her aesthetic was cinematic and maximalist, yet iconic enough for the Tumblr girls. It makes sense why they'd seek to destroy something they didn't understand, especially since Lana herself refused to define herself at the time. Was she a pop artist? Was she truly indie? The answer was she merely was. The people did not care for these questions about her father's money, or where she came from, or if she was made up by a label. I mean, if we're just looking at raw sales figures and the fact that she's on her 9th album, it's very clear that no one actually really cared for these questions other than the media, who really just wanted to take her down. In retrospect, the answer's actually kind of clear. Born to Die really does fit the pop moniker. It's indulgent dark pop with hip-hop sensibilities and sharp, memorable, timeless hooks. Its sleek production via Emile Haney felt revolutionary and new in a time dominated by Dr. Luke and Max Martin. I think strikingly enough, it wasn't just pop, it was the cool kind of pop, like the impress your friends kind of pop. In terms of food metaphors, if Katy Perry is like McDonald's, Lana Del Rey is like going to the Cheesecake Factory. Though Lana would quickly shift sounds, never quite making records that quite sound the same, other artists found themselves really inspired by Born to Die. Badlands by Halsey felt like a further commodification of both the Tumblr-friendly aesthetic and sound of Born to Die. The candid yet calculated lyrics, the production on that record, which I actually really did love at the time, felt like a spiritual, poppier sequel. Another album that I really do think emulated it was Troye Sivan's broody debut, Blue Neighborhood. He even mentioned her impact in an interview with Charlie XCX.
I'm not even exaggerating. I think she like changed pop, and she's not even necessarily in pop.
Yeah.
But it's just like everyone wanted to write lyrics like Lana.
Everyone.
Most famously, Wildest Dreams by Taylor Swift is nothing short of a clever interpolation of Lana's visuals and even a song that she did on Born to Die, Without You. Taylor in 2019 called her,
in my opinion, the most influential artist in pop.
Most recently, Billie Eilish herself sort of stands on the shoulders of Lana in many regards. Musically, her earlier songs with soft vocals about tragic circumstances against harsh beats really reminded me of Lana's genre-bending music. Even on her most recent album, Happier Than Ever, there are some jazzy cuts there that remind me of when Lana Del Rey really wanted to be gangster Nancy Sinatra. And who can forget when Camila Cabello essentially ripped off the Ride music video and Lana Del Rey commented, "What the hell?" in a positive way. It's important to note that I'm not saying any of these artists directly stole from Lana outright, but it's very clear that Born to Die's success opened doors and willing ears to these works. Whether subconscious or deliberate, it's clear that Born to Die's impact is still felt today. And now I'm going to talk about my own personal opinions about the Born to Die era and its music. I adored Born to Die then, but I adore it even more now. Even with nostalgia, you can't really deny this album's ability to create atmosphere. The opener and title track Born to Die is a timeless, bombastic track that immediately sets the tone for Lana's tapestry of tragic Americana-tinged bops. From the opening lines to the powerful chorus, "Let me kiss you hard in the pouring rain, you like your girls insane." It's this hyper-feminine track that really plays with classic tropes. Off to the Races continues Lana's fatalistic doom romantic saga. The production on this, as well as the storytelling of mutual destructive love, gives cohesion. Blue Jeans continues one of the greatest 3-song runs on an album I've ever heard. It's a classic for a reason. The verses are so raw and bare bones. Diaristic, almost pick-me-girl magic, leading to a chorus that's just so earnest. Love you more than those bitches before. You can't get away with that today. but that bridge is gorgeous. Emil Haney's production is just brilliant. I feel like everybody does give video games credits for putting her on the map, and it does deserve it. The melancholic strings and cinematic feel over candid, innocent lyrics, it's just a marvel. Diet Mountain Dew leans into the hip-hop sound, the chorus is an earworm, the falsetto is really camp, but it's really a national anthem that has to be another GOAT track. The audacity to drop a video about JFK, Jackie, and Marilyn's love triangle starring A$AP Rocky, the quasi-rapping that she does, and the stunning chorus, it's just high art. Francis Scott Key wishes he did that for America. Dark Paradise often gets flack for being the weakest track, which is something that I do agree with, but I characterize it as a victim of thematic fatigue and respect its adherence to the classic pop structure. It just pales in comparison compared to Blue Jeans and Born to Die. Radio, which follows after, is one of my personal favorites. The affectation of how she sings Cinnamon is addictive, and I'm a sucker for revenge, look at me now tracks. Carmen is a haunting metaphor and a semi-autobiographical track about young alcoholism, but it just did not mesh for me. Million Dollar Man is a jazzy bluesy ballad, but it also just did not connect with me. The standard album ends with Summertime Sadness, which is overshadowed by the dance remix, but is generally an enduring cinematic classic that perfectly captures the dog days of a summer, something that's running way too long. This Is What Makes Us Girls closes out the album on a really strong note, but I really did want to talk about the deluxe tracks. Without You continues Lana Del Rey's melodramatic old classic Hollywood vibe. I joke that this is the original demo for Wildest Dreams. It's just this beautiful love song, one of her best ballads. Lolita evokes the classic James Bond theme, a direct reference to Nabokov's classic novel, which is referenced throughout the album thematically. But Lucky Ones has to be one of my all-time favorite Lana tracks. I adore both the upbeat demo version and the rich final orchestral version. It's just this pure romantic escapist song. There's an absence of cynicism in it that's just really refreshing compared to the rest of the album. You could really interpret it as an ode to her fans in a way even. And screw it, let's just talk about Paradise really quick. Paradise feels like a more refined version of Born to Die overall. You can feel her weaning away some of the hip-hop influences. It contains Ride, a track that is famously known for the line, "I'm fucking crazy, but I'm free" in its music video. Ride is an odyssey of emotion and sound, almost like the thesis statement of Born to Die itself, combining many of the elements from that album into one single perfect coda. Tracks like American and Cola continue tropes within her own work, Cola being a perfect slam against Harvey Weinstein, and known for its iconic Pepsi Cola line. Body Electric plays with an iconic Walt Whitman title, painting an escapist fantasy, whereas Blue Velvet starts Lana's trend of issuing a cover on her later albums. Gods and Monsters is a very strong deep cut, and it was covered by Jessica Lange on one of the worst seasons of my opinion of AHS, though that song saved it. Overall, I'd have to rate Born to Die the Paradise Edition, so all of these tracks, a solid 8.8 out of 10 altogether. Looking back, the Born to Die Paradise era really does hold a near and dear place to my heart. It is iconic, but it's not quite my favorite Lana era. However, it is one of the most influential pop eras I've ever had the privilege of living in. Stay tuned for upcoming installments by liking, subscribing, and commenting your favorite tracks and thoughts on the era. Where were you when Born to Die happened? Were you a fan of Lana? Were you a hater? Did you change your mind? Let me know, I'm really curious. And that's a wrap on the video. Thank you so much to my subscribers. A quick shout out to my members for supporting my channel. I'm just gonna keep on doing these Lana videos up until Ocean Boulevard comes out. Maybe I'll do more. Let me know if you want more of the series in the comments, and I'll see you next video.